Welcome to Worldview Tube's Washington Report on this February 9th, 2026. I'm joined now by my co-host, Jim Pfaff of theconservativecaucus.com. Jim, we had the Super Bowl last night. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk leading up to it about the halftime show with Bad Bunny, and it was basically what we expected, I think. I didn't watch all of it, to be honest. I turned it off after a couple minutes because I didn't understand what he was saying. I'm not going to sit there and watch
it's exactly what we expected, which was the guy was going to sing rancid lyrics that no one could understand because they didn't know Spanish, while the NFL, one more time, is pushing a woke ideology and actually a destructive anti-American ideology by allowing a guy who says you got to learn Spanish if you want to enjoy the halftime show because he wants to impose something other than what is American. By the way, I have a mild bit of Spanish that I can speak. As you know, I have a lot of friends down in Brazil. I'm not against other cultures. I'm just saying we got our own. Quit trying to push your culture on us. We can respect Hispanic culture because we love Hispanic culture. I mean, I love real Mexican and Hispanic food in general from everywhere. But here's the problem. One more time. I mean, we're in the throes of the last gasps of the woke culture, and I didn't watch anything in the Super Bowl last night either. I didn't even watch the TPUSA halftime thing because I just wasn't interested. I'm done with pro football. Love college football, but we have a culture war that's still taking place, and we must, as people who profess Christ, be engaging in that culture war. It is absolutely fundamentally necessary for our future.
Yeah. Well, there's been a lot of drama on X, I guess, about the TPUSA halftime show, even among Christian writers.
No, not even among, only among.
Yeah.
So-called Christian
So there was
leaders.
a song in 2001 that Kid Rock sang that had bad lyrics in it, right? And they're
very bad, horrid, rancid.
And they're using that against him to go down on TPUSA for having him sing. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, so you had Mike Cosper, who's one of the editors of Christianity Today magazine, a magazine that has dedicated itself to woke progressive idealism to be foisted upon the church. The magazine founded by Billy Graham, which was always solidly conservative, biblical theologically, that he's absolutely fundamentally calling out TPUSA for having had Kid Rock on to talk about or to perform and to provide an alternative to Bad Bunny, who is talking about, literally was in Spanish talking about banging girls and a lot of sexual exploits that most Americans didn't understand because most Americans don't speak Spanish. That Hispanic Americans, or those who do speak Spanish, had to be subjected to if they were watching it. It was absolutely crazy. But here's a supposed light of Christian thinking promoting one of the most unchristian ideals, anti-gospel ideals that I've ever seen. I mean, I don't even believe, I've been critical of Christianity Today, Russell Moore, Mike Cosper for some time now. But the reality is they're not even about the gospel anymore. They just pushed it aside in this. Read what he said there.
He said, "Call me extreme, but I don't think guys who sing about banging underage girls should sing at the halftime shows for Christian orgs like TPUSA. Also, there was nothing un-American about Bad Bunny's performance." Well,
yeah. So he has no problem with Bad Bunny talking about banging girls.
Yeah.
On a very public platform. He can't be critical about that, and was actually praiseworthy, or at least half praiseworthy in that statement. Yet somehow TPUSA has a guy, and we're going to play the video, a guy on there who absolutely was as bad as it can get in his young life, in his early career, and has made a radical transformation. And somehow we got to dredge up the past.
Yeah, he didn't sing about that last night at the TPUSA event. He sang about it 24 years ago, right? So,
yes, it's crazy.
Well, let's play what he did do. This clip that you posted on X. Here we go.
There's a book that's sitting in your house somewhere. that could use some dusting off. There's a man who died for all our sins, hanging from the cross. You can give your life to Jesus, and you give you a second chance till you can't take it. If you got a chance, take it while you got a chance. If you got a dream.
All right. So no matter what his past was 24 years ago, I think that's a lot more wholesome and appropriate than Bad Bunny's performance, right? And for
guess what? Let's pretend for a moment, because I don't pretend this, but let's just pretend for the sake of argument that Kid Rock is being totally fake and false right now. Let's just for the sake of argument. That is still a far superior performance for Americans to be watching than what was offered at the NFL last night. It is absolutely amazing that Christianity Today is being critical. And the reason they're being critical, this is what they're doing. They hate TPUSA because Christianity Today is a Trump Derangement Syndrome, woke progressive magazine that once was a great magazine that promoted the gospel, promoted sound theological constructs, and promoted the kind of devotional and newsworthy items that really bless the Christian community. It has absolutely abandoned that. And the proof of it having abandoned it is exactly what Mike Cosper said last night. He is anti-gospel. I mean, this is literally the Antichrist spirit that Mike Cosper was showing last night, praising a rude, crude artist. Now, listen, in a free society, we allow people to act in a free manner as long as they aren't harming others. But so in terms of the secular aspects of our Constitution, Bad Bunny, the Super Bowl, they all have a right to free speech. They do not have a right to not suffer the consequences of what they do culturally. And I, for one, speak out against what the NFL has done. I'm sick and tired of the NFL trying to play this woke game. But even worse, far worse than anything the NFL is doing. It's bad enough, but it's far worse than that is what Mike Cosper said last night, denigrating Kid Rock, who literally is proclaiming the gospel. And for him to go against Kid Rock because of stuff he had done in the past, well, what about when Jesus was confronted by the disciples who said, hey, there are people preaching in your name over here and they're not with us? And what was Jesus' response? Let them continue. So again, back to my original argument. If Kid Rock is being totally fake and false, Mike Cosper is antithetical to what Jesus himself was saying. So when the gospel's preached, we should be applauding it. The people in Christianity today, they don't even know the gospel anymore. They don't understand the redemptive power of the cross. The fact that as human beings, we need a savior. We need someone who can, because God is just, remove the consequences of that justice for those who will express faith in him. And it's absurd what I saw. I mean, I'm just incensed about it. I've been critical of Christianity Today. They proved last night they are not a Christian publication anymore. And they need to repent of this behavior.
And here's another tweet that you reacted to. Joel Griffith. Total watching the Bad Bunny Super Bowl halftime performance, 137 million. Total watching the alternative TPUSA show, under 5 million. The people have spoken by a ratio of 30-1. I think everyone knew, obviously, that the numbers were going to be higher for the Super Bowl halftime show because it's literally the same channel the game was on. But who is Joel Griffith? Why is this important that he's speaking on it?
Joel Griffith is a researcher at Advancing American Freedom, Mike Pence's organization. Now, for those who don't know, because they haven't seen me on every episode around here, Mike Pence introduced me to my first political job. Mike and Karen went to the same church I did for many years. I used to have lunches with Mike regularly when he was on the radio in Indiana, when he ran Indiana Policy Review. There was a time when Mike Pence was a hero of the conservative movement from a Christian perspective and also from a general political perspective. That's changed. You've got one of his employees out there defaming TPUSA. I mean, I get. It's a TDS organization. It's a Trump Derangement Syndrome organization, AAF is. By the way, I know some people over there. Not all of them really are TDS people. But the reality is, Mike has become that. And he would countenance someone saying what this guy said. I mean, there was I said in my response to this, there was a time that Mike Pence promoted Christian values and ideals publicly in institutions that he ran or as when he was congressman. Apparently no more, because the Christian value thing that was happening last night, they're denigrating, and the anti-Christ, woke, unchristian performance that was taking place last night at the Super Bowl, they're promoting. Where's Mike on this?
And there's been posts with English lyrics of some of Bad Bunny's songs posted. I can't even show them.
You cannot. We could not. You would have to either blank them out or not show them at all, because it wouldn't pass. If there was an FCC regulated broadcast, it couldn't pass it. You're not FCC regulated, but it wouldn't pass FCC regulated muster. I mean, it's absurd. What is going on here? And what this is Trump Derangement Syndrome. This is how it works. You get so angry at someone you have a visceral hatred of that you desire to place your vengeance upon because of your hatred of him, and it causes you to do things that are wrong. We talk about Trump Derangement Syndrome quite a bit. We've talked about the Russia hoax and all that Democrats have done. We've talked about what the Lincoln Project has done, all these things. And we call them TDS. But here's what it really is. This is human beings attempting to throw their wrath and vengeance on someone that they have hatred for. The Sermon on the Mount is very clear on this. Everyone who acts in this manner against Donald Trump and his supporters for supporting Donald Trump is committing murder in their heart. It's not a legal crime. They haven't committed murder in the legal sense. They have committed murder in their hearts. Jesus said it very clearly. If you hate your brother, and because they are beating up on these people, at least at a minimum, they're hating me because I support Donald Trump. If you hate your brother, you're committed murder in your heart. Everyone who goes after Donald Trump in the manner of trying to destroy him. I'm not talking about political opposition. We're a free country. You can politically oppose anyone you want to. But that you are trying to destroy a man is heart murder. You're committing murder in your heart. This is the problem in our politics. There was a poll, or there was a study recently done, and I haven't had time yet to dig into it, but it sounds like it was scientifically accurate. There is a study and there's a graph out there, I shared it somewhere, that shows the polarization that's taken place in this country. And it shows a straight line when it comes to polarized disgust for Democrats amongst Republicans, but the line for Democrats goes straight down over time. So this since 1998. The polarization we're experiencing in this country is almost entirely a Democrat phenomenon. People who have decided that they do not like the American ideal and who are literally attempting to overthrow the American republic. There are some Republicans like that too. And I'm afraid that Mike Pence is getting, and certainly his organization, is going further and further down that path. It's absurd. It's unwarranted. If you want to be critical, be critical. That's not what I'm going against here. But when your criticism moves to the point where you will support a rancid display of violations of the Ten Commandments taking place at the Super Bowl celebration, and you're going to be critical of the TPUSA halftime show that is attempting to honor Christ, your mind is messed up, and you need to get it right.
Yep. Well, we have to go to break. We'll be back here in just a moment. We have some more, including some other clips and stuff coming out of even the Olympics. So we have the Super Bowl, and now we have the Olympics with some interesting comments there as well. We'll be right back in just a moment.
The dollar is dying. It's going down, and inflation is soaring. Are you prepared to lose through inflation your life saving, your purchasing power? I don't think you have to. I would urge you to go right now to worldviewgold.com. Worldviewgold.com. Get the free packet of information available, because you know what? I've been working with this company for about 17 years. And I trust them. Now, look, I don't give financial advice. I give financial opinion. And my opinion is you should do your own homework and your own due diligence. And I think that starts with getting the free, no obligation packet of information on how to put gold into your IRA, how to acquire physical gold or silver, or what is known as numismatic, 1933 and older. Education is crucial. And it starts with this free packet at worldviewgold.com, worldviewgold.com, or 1-877-864-1072, 1-877-864-1072, worldviewgold.com.
All right. Welcome back from the break. I'm joined back by Jim Pfaff of theconservativecaucus.com. We have a American Olympist. He's a freestyle skier for Team USA, and he was interviewed this weekend at the Olympics and asked, I don't know exactly the question he was asked, something about performing for America. And here's what he had to say.
It brings up mixed emotions to represent the U.S. right now, I think. It's a little hard. There's obviously a lot going on that I'm not the biggest fan of, and I think a lot of people aren't. If it aligns with my moral values, I feel like I'm representing it. Just because I'm wearing the flag doesn't mean I represent everything that's going on in the U.S. So yeah, I just kind of want to do it for my friends and my family and the people that support me getting here.
All right. Jim, what do you have to say about that?
America was not designed. I can't remember the guy's name. Hey, dude, America was not designed to represent your moral values. There is a set of moral values that that can be easily discerned from the Constitution that was created, which is the structure of this country. You can have your moral values. You can act in whatever manner you want as long as you don't harm others. But to think that we have to conform to your moral values, it's one of the most absurd things that I've ever heard. But we are in a day and age where this kind of thinking exists. This is the heart of wokeism. There are other videos. I don't know if you pulled them up for today, but I'm sure you've seen, Logan, some of these videos where people are saying that we need to cleanse America of the MAGA movement if we get back in power. This idea was in a less problematic form during the Biden administration, but it was very, very concerning. They literally want to scrub out of existence MAGA thinking. They either want to do it through re-education efforts, but frankly, they want to throw people in jail. Now, that's not America. You're not representing the United States when you think that way. So this guy is fine to think whatever he wants to think. He gets no he cannot be going out and saying that he's going to align with America. He's going to support America if it aligns with my values. I'm sorry, dude. Everybody's had different values in different ways throughout world history. And you're just another person that has another set of ideas. But if it does not conform to objective truth, it is not valid. The same with all of us. Even Christians, even non-Christians, we have to try to conform to truth. We're in a relativistic society which has turned away from seeking objective reality that is defined as reality as God sees it, not reality as some man sees it. That's relativism. God is objectively the source, a fundamental source of all truth. Our country was founded in that manner because we understood that we needed to do the best we could to conform to God's moral law. The Judeo-Christian ethic is the fundamental source of the ideals of the American system. And if those ideals are abandoned, the system will fall apart. And this is just one other person that's working towards that end of making it all fall apart.
Yep. Well, he wasn't the only one at the Olympics. There was a USA figure skater, Amber Glenn, who had this to say.
Yeah, it's been a hard time for the community overall under this administration. It isn't the first time that we've had to come together as a community and try for our human rights. And now, especially, it's not just a queer community, but many other communities. I think that we support each other in a way.
All right, the video is skipping up, but she's talking about how it's a hard time in America for the queer community. And I saw someone, when they posted the video, I can't remember who it was, but said, wait till she finds out how some of the other countries they're competing at the Olympics.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and even worse, what does she mean her rights are being threatened? My rights are being threatened. The attempts to take away my ability to speak out publicly through social media were aggressive during the Biden administration. Right now, the movement, you saw that one congressman, I think, make that statement about how minority communities now need to gang up against white Christian males.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a genocide way of thinking. It's not his proposals were not going to immediately lead to genocide. It's just that the logical conclusion of his proposals is genocide. What we're seeing here, a lot of people have talked about it. I posted this up yesterday or the day before. A lot of people are talking about what is the chance that we might have a civil war in this country over a lot of these political ideas. I'm not concerned about having a civil war. What I'm concerned about is Rwanda. In Rwanda, you had a government literally killing its political opponents, literally under government authority, throwing people in prison, murdering them en masse. That is the logical conclusion of these ideals. And by the way, these are people who are saying, oh, immigration is our strength. Well, the reason it's our strength, if it ever was, and I do agree some aspects of immigration in this country were quite beneficial to us, particularly European immigration that was coming in. But the reason it was is because we were a melting pot. When someone came into this country, they conformed to the American ideal. They were actually required to do so if they wanted to stay in this country and become a citizen. And the ideals that are coming from the Democrat Party, from these people like are apparently representing us, over in Italy and in the Olympics right now, their ideal is not a melting pot. They want those who are native to this country to conform to ideals that are not of this country. And listen, America is not the perfect country. We never were perfect. We never have done everything right. But I can tell you this, it is the greatest country that ever existed on earth. The fact that grinding poverty is almost eradicated around the world. Poverty still exists, but I'm talking about this grinding poverty where you have no hope of getting food or taking care of yourself. It's almost entirely gone because of efforts either directly undertaken by this country or inspired by the freedom in this country that has allowed that grinding poverty to go away. Economic liberty under a construct exactly like or similar to our Constitution has been the only thing that has allowed grinding poverty and really many of our problems in this world to go away. Not because human beings are perfect. 6,000 years of recorded human history proves the moral depravity of man. We are a flawed race, all of us. That's not why. It's not because we're good. It's because when people can reap all the benefits of their good moral decisions or pay the full consequence of their bad moral decisions, you get a leveling effect that tends to help society more. When you add to that an understanding that we are accountable to God in our government, in our personal lives, in our cultural lives, when you understand that we are accountable to God, then that adds another factor, which is a healthy fear of God who is perfectly righteous, perfectly just, and the creator of this universe. If you apply yourself to that, if a country applies itself to that, it has positive benefits that cannot even easily be measured happen for them. And that is the story of the United States, even with all of our flaws, is we held to that ideal for most of our history. And we see large portions of our culture and our society breaking from it now.
Yeah, and you mentioned Congressman Gene Wu, Democrat. I don't know where he's out of, but he put this video out. I don't know when this was put out. I believe this weekend. Watch this.
I always tell people the day the Latino, African American, Asian, and other communities realize that they share the same oppressor is the day we start winning. Because we are the majority in this country now. We have the ability to take over this country and to do what is needed for everyone and to make things fair. But the problem is our communities are divided. They're completely divided. And I talk about this,
And obviously he's referring to whites as the oppressor. So
Gene Wu is a racist. He just promoted a racist ideal. What's very interesting about the ideal that he's promoting is what he is asking for is something very similar that happened in the South pre-Civil War and post-Civil War. See, most people in the South, but by the way, there were general racist ideals, at least in a mild sense, that mostly happened in this country because we had our original the original move of people to this continent were from white Christian Europe. And you had people who were here, they weren't even exposed much to black folks until the slave trade started to come into place. Then, because of the people who abused black people, killing them, putting them into chattel slavery, because they needed to promote their ideal, they would inject things into society, both politically and culturally, to try to make an excuse for their evil practices. That was generated through culture prior to the Civil War in the South, where almost no one, in terms of population, owned slaves. There were lots of slaves, but hardly anybody owned them. Well, less than 10% of that entire population did that. And it was the politicians who promoted the Civil War to protect the slavery institution. Then after the Civil War, when this was finally gotten rid of, Jim Crow laws were propagated by politicians and, again, by people who could control culture. Now, what Gene Wu is recommending is that just the opposite of that be done to a certain group of people based upon their race. It's just the polar opposite of the problem that we had then. And it will come to exactly the same result if it is allowed to be propagated. His ideas are racist because he's doing them on a racial basis. Mm-hmm. He doesn't believe in the melting pot. Immigration is not our strength for him. Political power is his strength that he wants. This is an ideal that is designed to harm individuals. It is not designed for the benefit of all Americans. It wants to build up a caste system where certain people, based on certain criteria that politicians decide, are the ones who will be able to benefit from this culture. That is antithetical to the American ideal. Even though we started out this country with slavery, the evil practice of slavery still is an institution. We got it right because we put the time bomb against that sort of racist behavior. Now, Gene Wu and people like him, they're trying to recreate it in a different form and against different people.
Yep. We're all out of time for today. We didn't get to new ad put out by a Democrat PAC about ICE. It's quite interesting. We'll have to play that maybe tomorrow. Go to theconservativecaucus.com to keep up with Jim and watch us at worldviewtube.com tomorrow at the same time. Till then, take care.
Tonight on the Worldview Report, Virginia Democrats push a chilling Islamophobia bill that could label criticism of Islam as a hate crime, threatening free speech in the Commonwealth. Then a groundbreaking global study counts 3,625 biolabs worldwide with massive oversight gaps, including 73% of BSL Level 3 labs hiding pathogen and location details. That's what a House Intelligence Chairman is warning about, and it's tied to the illicit Chinese-linked biolabs on U.S. soil that could be engineered for a patient zero scenario to spark the next pandemic. And he's urging counterintelligence. And then a bombshell discrepancy emerges in the Epstein files. An official U.S. attorney's statement announces that his death occurred one day before he was actually found dead, intensifying, of course, questions about the official timeline and narrative. And Israeli defense officials tell the U.S. that they are ready to strike Iran's ballistic missile program unilaterally if a red line is crossed, calling it a historical opportunity to neutralize the existential threat. And then finally, in my commentary tonight, Bad Bunny's Super Bowl halftime show, a mostly Spanish, Puerto Rican-themed spectacle with foreign flags, and it was a deliberate cultural humiliation ritual on America's biggest stage. All this and more as the Worldview Report begins right now.
This is Worldview Report with host Brandon House. Whether it is news from the nation's capital or your state capital, from the classroom to the boardroom, from national security to national and local news that impacts you and your family, Worldview Report is your trusted source for vital and uncensored news. And now, here is Brandon House.
Good evening, and welcome to the Worldview Report. I'm Brandon House. We start tonight with a deeply troubling piece from Red State. Virginia Democrats, they're pushing SB 624. It's a bill introduced in January of 2026 by Senator Saddam Aslan Salem, a Democrat from Northern Virginia's 37th District. And it seeks to define Islamophobia as a form of assault and battery and a hate crime. The bill, it explicitly defines so-called Islamophobia as, quote, malicious prejudice or hatred directed toward Islam or Muslims, end quote. And then it adds, quote, this definition applies regardless of whether the victim is actually a practitioner of Islam, provided that the perpetrator targeted such victim based on a perceived adherence to such faith, end quote. It also states that, quote, religious conviction includes Islam, end quote. It was sponsored by Salem with 14 Democrat co-sponsors and 0 Republicans. The legislation, it directs the Virginia Department of State Police in consultation with the Attorney General's office and their Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion to incorporate this definition into the state's hate crime reporting central database. The bill, it recently advanced and is now being considered by the Courts of Justice Committee in the next legislative session. Now, if this bill is passed, it would expand Virginia's existing hate crime provisions to include bias against Islam and Muslims, potentially triggering enhanced penalties under hate crime laws for acts tied to this, quote, malicious prejudice, end quote. The author, Terry Christoph, describes the bill as a chilling attempt to stifle free speech and to police thought, calling the provision about perceived adherence the most bonkers part, and warning, it's part of a broader Democratic pattern in Virginia of high taxes, soft on criminal treatment, and gun restrictions, along with ideological overreach. She invokes George Orwell, quote, George Orwell did warn us, end quote. She framed it as a slow creep toward authoritarian control over expression rather than genuine protection from violence. Folks, this is not about stopping physical assaults. Those are already crimes. This is about codifying criticism or disagreement with Islam as a prosecutable form of hatred, even when no actual harm occurs, and even against non-Muslims mistakenly perceived as adherents. When governments start criminalizing thoughts or words, and they're labeled as prejudice, well, it sets a dangerous precedent that could one day target biblical views on marriage, life, or faith itself. So we must pray that Virginia's lawmakers reject this Orwellian bill and uphold true liberty under God. Of course, our First Amendment, free speech and freedom of religion, which includes putting out news and information about the various worldviews that dominate our globe, and that includes Islam. A new global mapping study has been published in the Journal of Public Health, and it has identified 3,625 high containment biological laboratories worldwide. The most comprehensive count to date, far exceeding previous estimates from the WHO and global biolabs, due to rapid expansion and incomplete tracking systems. The research, it tallies 3,515 biosafety level 3 laboratories, which handle infectious agents that may cause severe or potentially lethal disease through inhalation. And then they found 110 biosafety level 4 facilities. That's the highest containment level for the most dangerous and exotic pathogens posing high risk of aerosol transmission. The key statistics include 149 countries. They operate at least one BSL level 3 lab. 34 countries have at least one BSL level 4 lab. The United States, we host 47.1% of global BSL level 3 labs. That's the highest share, followed by the United Kingdom at 17.2%. With the two nations together, accounting for nearly 2/3 of all BS level 3 facilities. The U.S., we lead in BSL level 4 labs with 17, followed by the United Kingdom with 13. 17 countries have only one BSL 4 lab. Transparency, well, it remains a major issue. Detailed geolocation and pathogen information is publicly available for only 955 of the BSL level 3 laboratories. That's approximately 27%, meaning roughly 73% or about 2,560 labs do not disclose such details. The study, it highlights massive oversight gaps for dual-use research of concern. Experiments with legitimate scientific purposes that, well, could be misused to enhance pathogen danger, with 91.6% of countries operating the BSL level 3 labs lacking any guidelines or oversight. Only 8.39% of countries have formal training or guidelines in place. The analysis, it cites prior data documenting 309 laboratories that